Coach Corey Wayne, and this is my video coaching newsletter. And the topic of this newsletter is going to be when she says maybe or we'll see. Well, usually when a woman says either of those two statements, it's another way of saying no without really saying no because she's just trying to let you down easy. Got an email here from a viewer. He says, "Hey Coach, I've been watching your videos for about 2 weeks now, and I accidentally stumbled upon your video on YouTube when I was searching for relationship advice. My girlfriend broke up with me about a week ago saying that she fell out of love with me. Women fall in love slowly over time, and they also fall out of love slowly over time. And unfortunately, most guys just don't know how to tell the difference. They think, hey, if she's with me, it means she still feels the same way. That's why you got to learn what to look for, obviously by reading what I talk about in my book." He says, "It took me by surprise and I felt devastated." Well, it usually does for most guys. The average guy just has no idea. They can't tell how a woman feels about them. He says, "A couple of days later, she texted me asking if I wanted to go have dinner. I felt hesitant at first since she broke my heart, but I still loved this girl and I went ahead and said sure. During our dinner, she told me that she was open to getting back together and I was so happy to hear it. We talked about what went wrong and discussed how we're going to fix it, i.e. communication, commitment, etc. Now a week goes by and I feel like she's distant with me again. We live a bit far from each other, so I try to text and call every now and then, but I would barely get any reply from her. That's why you need to text less. Women should be doing 70 to 80% of the calling, texting, and pursuing. That's just if you want to keep things the best way that they can be, you keep her happiest and in love, it's just let women reach out to you and come to you at their own pace. They'll even tell you this themselves. It's like, you got to let me come to you. Because most guys are just in such a mad rush to get to the dating finish line or the relationship finish line or to get to the altar or get to the point where they're living together or having kids, whatever it happens to be. They're never able to be totally, fully present in the moment and just have a good time and hang out and have fun and hook up and do that over and over and over again until eventually she'll fall in love with you if you're doing everything right on your dates. I mean, think about it. You go out, you have a great time together, you hook up, you have great sex, you have a lot of fun together, and you just keep doing that over and over and over again. And as long as you're not doing things and saying things that make you look weak, but you're constantly and consistently acting confident and acting with alpha male-like behavior, it'll take about 2 months for a girl to fall in love with you. And same thing, if a girl's fallen out of love with you, there's an interest level table in my book. It's on, I think, page 125 it starts. So when you follow along with that, you can look at your girl's actions and tell exactly how she feels about you. And those are the things you can't hide. You just look at her actions and you know exactly. Because there are certain things, when a woman and her interest is in the 90% range and she's head over heels in love, she'll be buying you things, calling you all the time, writing cards, just gushing about you to her friends and her family, saying all kinds of sweet lovey-dovey things to you. But as her interest drops, those things become less and less frequent. And that's why a guy needs to recognize it. And the typical guy sees that, he's like, oh my God, something's wrong. And they start chasing, pursuing, trying to force things, as opposed to just hanging back, chilling out, and focusing on what's most important. Because a lot of guys, they get into a relationship, they date a girl properly, and then it becomes the same boring, dull routine every single week. They get together, they go to the same restaurant, they hang out with the same people, or she comes over and they hang out and they watch movies together and they have sex, and then she goes home, and the guy just never really takes her anywhere, never really does anything, and just in the beginning, when he started dating, he put some effort into courting her and planning dates and going out and doing fun things together. And now, it's just he kind of sits in his chair all the time and he wants to do nothing and watch TV and just have her come over and they hang out and hook up and have sex. And that's it. And it becomes boring. It gets to the point where it becomes predictable, where the girl knows everything that's going to happen before she comes over, and she'll even tell you that. I had a girlfriend of mine tell me that one time, and it's not because she was being mean about it. She was just saying she loved me and she cared about me, and it was affecting her interest in me in a negative way. And obviously she didn't like that because she really loved me and cared about me, and she was just trying to help me do what I needed to do in order to facilitate her falling in love with me, or staying in love with me, I should say, in that particular case. And that's a great thing about being with a girl that you really like and who feels the same way. They help you when they like you. They'll make it easy for you. But the average guy is just so clueless, they don't see these things and they don't listen to her, and it just goes right over his head, and he continues acting weak, and eventually she gets tired of it and realizes he's not going to change. And a lot of women will stay in a relationship to the point where they've lost all respect for the guy. And then it's easy for them to leave, because when a woman has no respect for a man, when he's just basically let her walk all over him, and then 2 weeks later she's all over some other dude, and he has a freak out about it. I was like, well, I don't get this. That's because she stayed with you long past the point where she didn't care about you anymore. And that way it makes it easy on her to leave and find somebody new down the road. He says, now a week goes by, and I feel like she's been distant with me again. He said, so he's talking about how her texts, where she's like, he barely get any reply from her. And so we discussed that. And so he says, I also asked her if she wanted to Skype with me since I haven't seen her in over a week, and she said maybe. In other words, no, I don't really want to see you. That's basically what she's communicating to you. And so, like, but listen to your statement here. He's like, I asked her if she wanted to Skype since she hadn't seen me in over a week. It's like, hey, please, Your Highness, will you give me a little bit of your attention and time? And she's like, I'm busy, maybe. You got to remember, this is a girl that just dumped you and broke up with you, so her interest is really low, and it's best to make, I know it's counterintuitive, but to make yourself a little more scarce, she has to work for you a little bit. I mean, it takes two in a relationship. And so she said communication, commitment, I mean, all those things are what's going to make the relationship work. Well, where's the commitment on her side when she's not returning your phone calls or she's not returning your texts? And so you got to look at those things and just realize it just means that she's really not that into you. And that's why backing off and chilling out a little bit and giving her some space so she can miss you and wonder about you and start to rekindle some of those feelings, as opposed to you turning into a stalker trying to run after her, which is only going to cause her to break up with you for good and not want anything to do with you or keep you in friend zone. He says, when she said that, I felt like she didn't want to talk to me or just wasn't interested with having a Skype session. You're absolutely right. She wasn't interested in having a Skype session. And don't get butthurt about it and upset about it. Just understand and recognize the fact that it's indicative of how she feels about you right now. And if she doesn't feel that way about you, then wait a week. And then if you haven't heard from her, call her and try to arrange a date to get together. And after asking her out to do something twice and she gives you that same maybe, I don't know, then just don't ask her anymore. And then wait for her to call you. And like I said, at this point, I wouldn't be calling your ex-girlfriend at all. I would wait to hear from her. And then when you do hear from her, hey, baby, great to hear from you. We got to get together. When are you free? And then plan a date. Be excited when she calls, because the reason she's reaching out is now she's become unsure of herself. And so you just plan the next date when she does call. And that's the best way to handle those situations, because then it starts to retrain her that when she calls you, she'll get a date with you. And then that helps reflip the balance to the point where she's doing 70 to 80% of the calling, texting, and pursuing, and you only have to do about 20% of it. And it makes it pretty easy in that case, because if a girl's chasing after you and running after you and trying to get a hold of you and trying to make plans with you, she's not going to be dumping you or blowing you off. It's just that you got to recognize it when she contacts you. Assume it's because she wants to see you and just facilitate that. Plan a date. Make something happen. I see guys sometimes that the girl will call and they won't do anything. It's like they wait for her to bring it up. And like I said, the only time that you stop bringing up asking her out on dates is if she continues to call you and you're not reaching out in any way other than to respond to her text. And then you ask her to do something and she says no, she can't, she'll get back to you. So over the course of, on 2 different occasions, you'll ask her out when she's initiated the contact, and if she won't make plans with you, then after the second time of you asking her out and getting rejected when she's called you first, then you just stop asking her altogether. And then one of two things will happen. Over the 2 or 3 weeks will go by. You know, she may still continue to call you and talk to you, but just keep the conversation short. Just, hey, it was great hearing your voice again. I got to run. Keep in touch. And one of two things will happen. She'll either stop calling you or she'll bring up getting together. And if she brings up getting together, it means that she's finally gotten to the point where she wants to see you again, because her interest has creeped up on her a little bit. He says, I know she's been busy lately with grad school applications and work, but I can't help worrying that she might leave me again. Should I talk to her about it? He says, I'm completely clueless. I need help. It's like talking to her about it's not going to do anything. The point being is that she doesn't want to see you. And that's not you can't use logic and reason to talk her into wanting to see you again. You just got to give her the space That's why she broke up with you in the first place, because she wasn't feeling it anymore. She wasn't emotionally into you, and you're like barely hanging on by your fingernails as it is, because what you saw in the beginning was when you walked away, it's like a week went by, and then she called you and she says, hey, I'm open to getting back together again. And that in and of itself, you didn't do anything to facilitate that. You just walked away from it. And then she calls you a week later, hey, I'm open to getting back together again. I mean, think about that. You're starting to see that it has results, but yet then you go, it's like as soon as she calls back, then you go right back to your old behavior, which causes her to get all wishy-washy and unsure of herself and how she feels about you again. So I encourage you to read my book. So if you have a question you want to ask me, go to my website, click the Contact Me tab, which will be on the left-hand side of your screen, and send me 1 to 2 paragraphs max, and just give me several weeks to get back to you with a response. If you want to talk to me right away, the quickest way to get my help is to book a paid phone coaching session. You can do that by going to my website, and on the Wibbia toolbar at the bottom of your screen, click the PayPal donate button and donate any amount that you feel is equal to the value of the information. And I will talk to you soon.